Michael from San Antonio, buy or sell on The Rock's biggest rival, Triple H or Stone Cold Steve Austin? I could give you reasons for both, and it's close enough that I could actually answer this question two different ways, depending on the day of the week that you ask me. I loved the Rock Triple H rivalry. I was bummed we never got the match between them at WrestleMania 32. I would have liked to have seen them in the ring together one more time. But they came up in the company at the same time. There was a very real competition there. I think professional competition between the two of them, not only on camera, but off camera as well. I mean, how could there not be? They carried the company together through much of the year 2000 when Austin was out. It's a crime they never had a singles match at WrestleMania. But I'm going to buy on Austin as The Rock's greatest rival. They headlined 3 WrestleManias together. Even if they didn't go on last at 19, it was still one of the main events promoted on that show. Rock and Triple H, the way I look at it is like this. Here's how I boil it down. Rock and Triple H had a very memorable rivalry. Austin and Rock had a legendary rivalry. That's the biggest difference. So Austin would be my pick, but it's close. It is close. Now, Austin was Rock's greatest rival, but The Rock was not Austin's greatest rival. I have to make that distinction, even though, it's correct the other way around, in my opinion. As far as Austin's greatest rival, that belongs to Vince McMahon. On that, I don't think there can be any debate. As great as Austin Rock was, Austin's greatest rival was Vince McMahon. Plain and simple. You could even rank them and say Vince number 1, Rock number 2, and I would go probably Bret Hart number 3 for Austin. But his greatest rival for sure was Vince McMahon. Joey from Canada. With the month of August upon us and Summerslam on the horizon, here's a little twist to the traditional buy or sell. Let's do buy, sell, and rent on these 3 classic John Cena matches from the past decade of SummerSlam. John Cena against CM Punk in 2011. John Cena against Daniel Bryan in 2013. And John Cena against AJ Styles in 2016. Buy one, sell one, and rent one. Well, that's a tough one, but here's what I would do. Now, if you had said John Cena versus CM Punk at Money in the Bank 2011, I wouldn't have been able to answer the question. I would have bought every single one of them. Because those would be 3 of the best matches in company history. I was never as much of a fan of their SummerSlam match as I was Money in the Bank. They just could not, and maybe because it wasn't in Chicago, they just couldn't recapture lightning in a bottle the way they had it at Money in the Bank. So it was still a very good match, but not one of my favorites. So I'm going to sell on the Cena-Punk match from 2011 at SummerSlam. I'm going to rent this is so tough. These matches were fantastic. They really were. Both matches were great. I'm going to rent, though, on... See, this is where it gets tough. The sell part was easy for me. In terms of the buying and the renting, though, I think you got me here between a rock and a hard place. I'm gonna rent Cena and Bryan from 2013, and I'm gonna buy on Cena Styles from 2016. I still feel like that was their best match. I like that better than their Royal Rumble match the following year. I don't think I'm being biased just because I was there live for the match, but what a fantastic match. And both matches, by the way, Cena lost. Cena did the JOB in both matches. Clean. So nobody can complain about, he never did a clean job. Those are 2 of the best matches in SummerSlam history, and it was John Cena flat on his back looking up at the lights. You can't go wrong with either one. But I'm going to buy on 2016, rent 2013, and sell on 2011. Rabat from Derby, England, out of the following names, which of these wrestlers would you have liked to have seen Triple H have a meaningful, long-term storyline main event feud with pay-per-view matches? Edge, Bob Holly, Bubba Ray Dudley, Rey Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero, Rhino, JBL, Chyna, Shane McMahon, Scott Hall, Kurt Hennig, Dolph Ziggler, or the British Bulldog? I don't think you put enough names in that question. Why don't you add another 20? You just named the whole roster. I'm kidding, Rabat. That's a lot of names, though. Who would I have liked to have seen Triple H have a long-term feud and maybe some pay-per-view matches with out of that bunch? I'll pick two. Really, there's only two that kind of jumped out at me. One is Kurt Hennig. We never really got a conclusion to the storyline in 96. This is going back before Triple H was even really a star. But when they did the angle at the end of 96 where it looked like he and Mr. Perfect were going to have a match and then they ended up being together and then he left. Mr. Perfect left. And I would like to think that at some point it would have built to a split the following year and maybe a match, a pay-per-view match between Triple H and Mr. Perfect. And I think that could have been a really good match. And we never got that. We never got to see it. So Kurt Hennig would be one. The other one I'll throw out there that you mentioned is Shane McMahon. And that's more so for something they could have done when Shane first came back to the company a few years ago. I think as exhausted as I am of all the McMahon shit, I think there was a great story to tell. And maybe it hits a little too close to home, and that's why they didn't do it. But Triple H being the one to kind of worm his way into the family and take what Shane felt belonged to him. The heir apparent, which maybe he won't be. Maybe Triple H won't be the heir apparent. I actually think it's very possible Triple H never takes over. I think it's possible Vince McMahon ends up selling out to a company like Disney or something before he ever just hands the reins over to Triple H. So there's no guarantee he'll be the heir apparent. But there was a great story to tell there, and they didn't do it. They did Undertaker and Shane, Hell in a Cell, all right, whatever. But I'm telling you, that would have been the build-up and the promos, like story-wise. I don't know what the match would have been like. I think the match could have been fun. I would have liked to have seen them do that. That was a missed opportunity.